what is the cost? And so I'm going to share a story with you guys that is a real world example. We were brought in to consult for a law firm after they had an email compromise. And this was a few years ago, and I've shared this story before and in my book. But this law firm, told me, they said, please get this out there, share this story because I don't want anybody else to be attacked. So the way this attack went down is one of their paralegals received a phishing email. And in that phishing email, they clicked on a link that allowed the attacker to get access to that person's email account. There was not multi-factor authentication set up in this company. And so the attacker got the username and password for this account. Now, this user was not an administrator. So just a user on the network. They did not have to infiltrate any other users on the network. So the only account that the attackers had access to was this one paralegal. Now the attacker was in that account for nearly 6 months. So this attacker was very patient, and they were just monitoring the communications of this paralegal for 6 months. Now, you can imagine this law firm was a bankruptcy law firm for individuals, and so there was a lot of financial data that went back and forth in this paralegal's account, and they were waiting for a settlement of a case for this for a client, and they watched, court cases, communication that were going back and forth, and then they found out that there was going to be a $100,000 plus payment coming from a judgment to this client. And so before this judgment occurred, they sent a fake email to this paralegal and said, we would like to adjust the direct deposit, the ACH information that this would go to. And because they had all the information, they were able to use the correct form that they had filled out before and said, I need to make this adjustment. And it all looked legitimate. They had the right signature, they had the right form from the law firm, they had all the information that convinced this paralegal to change the ACH information that this judgment would go to. And so when the judgment came, uh, the paralegal sent this $100,000 judgment out to to the hackers rather than the individual. And what the attackers also did is they set filters on that user's email account so that any legitimate communication that was going back and forth to the client was getting filtered out. And so that paralegal, wasn't aware what was going on because any other communication wasn't being seen by the actual user. The hackers were responding to the client in real time and telling them, oh, I'm sorry, the payment's coming, and communicating it so that they would have enough time for this ACH to clear their account and they could pull it out, which only is a couple of days that they needed. So finally, the client, about a week after this judgment was supposed to be deposited in their account and was not, the client called the law firm and said, hey, I was supposed to receive this payment. It hasn't been deposited in our account. What's going on? And they said, oh, we sent that out a week ago. And then digging into, they realized that they had sent it out to the wrong account, and the attackers had it. And then, they contacted their bank, and because too much time had passed, there was no ability to get the funds back. And so this law firm was now out over $100,000 of funds that were supposed to go to this client and ended up going to the attacker. Luckily, I believe this law firm had some insurance to protect against this, and some errors and omissions insurance and cyber liability and employee theft insurance, but it certainly did not help their reputation. And so, one click from an employee cost this company, the small law firm, about 8 employees, not a big firm, costs them tens of thousands of dollars, not the full 100,000 because they did have insurance, but it did cost them tens of thousands of dollars, and then reputational damage that far exceeded that, tens of thousands of dollars.